Let's get educated. That's why we're here, to bring you the stories impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses. It's time for a little education.
Well, hello everyone. I am Katie Patrick, joined as always by Mr. David Fiorazzo.
Cheers.
Cheers.
To educate. Stay educated.
Stay educated.
Yes.
All of the good things.
All the
well,
good things.
Some good things, maybe not all good things, but we have some good things, so that's okay. Now we have presidential contender and Governor Ron DeSantis down in the Florida area. He fires back at Vice President Kamala Ding Dong Harris after she claims that Florida's new history curriculum promotes slavery as a good thing for black people. Is that what happened?
Oh, brother.
David?
So let's break this down here. There's a couple videos we're going to show you, but Governor DeSantis scorched VP Harris with a response after she repeated a popular but misleading narrative about Florida's curriculum on slavery. So Harris claimed that DeSantis had instituted new standards that taught slaves benefited from slavery and promised to do what she could to oppose the policy. So according to DeSantis, he said this: "I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. It's totally outrageous." And this was at a briefing. He said you can look at the website at the Florida Department of Education, and he goes on. But we want to play this first video because we've got a busy segment here. So let's play that first and we'll come back and talk about it.
In the state of Florida, they decided middle school students will be taught that enslaved people benefited from slavery. They insult us in an attempt to gaslight us, and we will not stand for it. They want to replace history with lies. How is it that anyone could suggest that in the midst of these atrocities, that there was any benefit to being subjected to this level of dehumanization?
Okay, David.
Dehumanization. Accusing everybody else of doing what they themselves are doing. They want to replace history with lies. What have you done for the past 50 to 70 years in America with the textbook publishers and education? Katie, go ahead.
Yeah,
Okay,
now,
simmer down,
anytime
man.
word salad gets out there and opens her mouth, you get a word salad. So let's just listen to someone who actually knows specifically what is in
the curriculum,
okay, and what they're going to teach. Someone who can actually speak well. Oh, someone who may be a doctor.
Who would that be?
Dr. William Allen. You take the floor.
Tell her right now what specifically this component of the slavery course teaches.
Well, permit me to have Frederick Douglass tell her. He wrote an autobiography in which he described how the mistress of his slave owner began to teach him to read. She pulled back the curtain through which a glimmer of light shone before the master forced her to close it. But that glimmer of light was enough for Frederick Douglass to illumine a bright flame that he exploited to his benefit and his country's benefit thereafter. Such examples are numerous, and they are retailed in the stories of people who suffered the indignity of slavery time and again. And quickly, permit me to say, what this curriculum is about is having people who live the experience, who live the history, tell their stories. And nothing is more important than that we never, ever erase the stories that the people who live the stories tell. No one has a right to interpret before first understanding the stories as the people who lived them understood them themselves.
But Kamala Harris only cares about telling her story.
Lies.
And how she had to ride a bus
Liar.
out in California and all this other stuff when she was growing up, and how she likes Venn diagrams.
How did she get into government again, by the way? Never mind. Never mind.
Yeah, so there we have someone who actually understands what is in this curriculum and how you need to tell the truth about it. Not just put these one-liner, oh, they're saying that slavery
dehumanizing,
was benefiting, and all this, and she's just giving out these one-line parts, and he's actually pointing to what is in the curriculum.
Yeah.
You have to teach the truth.
Oh, so
the good, the bad, and the ugly. That is the truth.
Kamala never actually said anything specifically pointing to what was in the curriculum
course
like
not.
that
How could
doctor
you?
did. And she's not in Florida, and she has her political talking points. But let's go to someone who might have an idea of what's really happening in Florida. Governor Ron DeSantis. Go.
I mean, I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. It's totally outrageous. You guys can look on the website of the Florida Department of Education. You know, they got a lot of scholars together to do a lot of standards and a lot of different things, but these are the most robust standards in African American history, probably anywhere in the country. Anyone who reads that will see that it's very thorough, very factual, and for them to try to demagogue it, look, that may have worked in the past. Nobody's buying their nonsense anymore, and so she's going to come down to the state of Florida and try to chirp and try to demagogue.
Okay, so instead of addressing his argument, what you just heard from Governor DeSantis, some on the left, Democrats, attacked him for having white people stand behind him as he said what he just said. The audacity that he didn't care about DEI when he's making a statement about education curriculum. This, Katie, so let's deflect, let's avoid the actual topic and content and what the debate is about. Let's look at these other things. What do you think? Well,
it doesn't matter the visual component of any of this. The truth is, Florida did adopt, the Department of Education did adopt the African American history standards, and it includes those lessons on what skills slaves developed for their own personal benefit to the woe is me that is Kamala Harris. So she is very bitter about it and will remain bitter so, because they need to deflect any attention off of themselves of what they're truly doing, indoctrinating the kids with all the sexual agenda that they have. Because if they actually turned and looked at like something like what Florida is doing and truly teaching history to the children, the Democrats would have nothing to run on in the upcoming election, and they would have to the actual election would be about them, and they can't have that because they have nothing good to say.
Yes, she seems like a very bitter person. I'll just say this: in life, you can get bitter or you can get better. All right, still to come. Speaking of Florida, several leftist teachers' unions are enraged after seeing union dues plummet thanks to a new law instituted by Ron DeSantis. We're talking about that.
Florida out there setting another good example. Things that maybe the rest of the country should actually adopt. So maybe instead of looking to California or New York and what they're doing, maybe you should look a little south in Florida. Because
for some things, yes.
A new thing that is happening, it's a new thing every day. It's a new day in Florida every day when the governor is Ron DeSantis. There are several teachers unions now who are seeing a reduction in their revenue because of a law that Governor Ron DeSantis was all about. It prohibits automatic paycheck deduction. So if you were a teacher in Florida, you got your check at the end of the 2 weeks or whatever, and you looked and you said, who's FICA and why is he taking all my money? Where's that reference from? Friends, I know I'm old. Okay. But what they would see is automatically these teachers unions would take money. You were automatically enrolled. It's like, it's just another tax on you. The unions, who are now mad that there was a law put in place prohibiting this from happening so that, teachers could actually have autonomy and make decisions for themselves. The unions are the Florida Education Association, the United Faculty of Florida, is it Alachua? I'm not from Florida. I don't know the county. Education Association, and the Pinellas Classroom Teachers Association. So we're talking K-12 and higher ed. So the Florida teachers unions of the public schools and universities filed a revised lawsuit now and an injunction against the state's dues deduction ban that went into effect just at the beginning of July. So right away they were on it saying, no, we need our money. Give us our money. And they're arguing that the law has caused the organizations to suffer major revenue loss. Well, yes, when you're not forcing teachers to pay you without them being able to be given the choice, yeah, you're going to probably lose a couple because people have preferences, and they will choose to act upon those preferences. If you haven't studied Austrian economics, there it is in a nutshell. You're welcome.
Preferences.
People have them.
You're saying when they have a choice, that's a good thing.
Oh yes. I guess I have chosen to make the choice. That choice is good.
Choice is good.
I've made that choice.
Yeah, in most cases. But so the unions, they're always lobbying for more money for the teachers, more money for education, more money for this program, that program. And as we know, we've said that before, the money doesn't get to the students, doesn't really get to actual education. Otherwise, wouldn't you think that test scores would go up and kids would be learning more? But no, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, so basically what we have going on here is every step of the way for the past half a year or so, these teachers' unions have known this was coming. It's been set up, and they keep filing these injunctions saying, no, stop it. We're bleeding money here. People don't want to play with us if we don't force them. If we give them a choice, they will choose otherwise. So the Florida teachers' unions have argued that they are already suffering from a reduction in irreplaceable revenue. It's about to get much worse. I just laughed. Now, Governor Ron DeSantis, way back when, actually had tweeted out, in addition to approving a record $1 billion for teacher salaries, the legislation I signed protects teacher paychecks from automatic union deductions. That's what we're talking about.
They don't like that.
It creates a teacher's bill of rights. It reforms school board elections, and it removes social media from the classrooms. Okay, how is that not amazing sounding for a teacher in Florida? If you are a teacher, do you not want to have choice? Do you not want a teacher's bill of rights? Look at this bill of rights. It actually says it empowers the teachers to preserve safety and order in their classrooms. Because you know what? We've lost that across the nation. Classroom autonomy and having power in the teachers' hands, because we've seen too much going on. It actually gives Florida teachers an avenue to report if they've been directed to break any law by their administration. They're not held down, tied to, I've been told I have to do it this way, like being handcuffed. Teachers are given autonomy now. It does all these great things that teachers have a right within their classroom to be teachers. Oh, it's such a bad thing, that governor.
So can I ask you something? Do you understand how it protects teacher paychecks from automatic union deductions? So am I understanding that right? Because the teachers' unions fund that money to Planned Parenthood and Democrat campaigns during the election cycle. So that means if they're allowing teachers to be protected from these automatic union deductions, the Democrats won't have as much money to be funded. Am I understanding that correctly?
It's quite possible. Yeah, depending on how much money each union allocates to the Democrats, I guess.
Well,
and based on then the revenue deduction that they will have coming in, that may affect what then goes out to those Democrats. So I think I'm guessing the Florida Education Association is the largest in the state. If someone's out there from Florida, teacher, write in, let us know. We will convey the message. I am assuming that they are going to be hit hardest because they're probably the largest. And then the United Faculty of Florida is probably the universities grouping equivalent to the K-12. So how much money have they always allocated to the Democrats? I would have to take a look at that. And if there will be a deduction, or is it that's just what they're going to spend their money on now? Even less spending on the teachers. We have to put it all into the Democratic candidates.
Yes.
Yeah,
wait a minute. I thought education was not supposed to be political.
Yes, it's not. It is nonpartisan.
Yeah, but they've endorsed every Democrat candidate for president since Jimmy Carter. Look it up. So, but they're not political.
No, not political. Well, thanks to Congress, more than, speaking of political, more than 760,000 prisoners, people wearing the orange jumpsuits, have just become eligible for more than $130 million.
Where does that money come from?
Federal aid.
Okay.
To enroll in college courses. We're going to take a look behind the bars on that one.
Today's show is sponsored by our friends at MyPillow. Save up to 66% on pristine quality bedding, towels, slippers, signature pillows, and much more when you use the code EDUCATED. That's EDUCATED. Educated. Support this show and a great American company.
All right. Let's talk about the clink.
You mean Colonel? See,
All right. So if you commit a crime, David,
yes.
have you committed a crime?
Not recently.
Trying to get him to confess. All right. If you commit a crime, you go to prison, you live on government welfare.
Yes.
And now you're going to go to college.
Wait a minute.
For free. For free, supposedly.
Wait a minute. Am I understanding that you are a criminal, depending on whatever
No.
crime?
Do you identify as that, or are you a
Yeah,
person?
That's right. They can probably identify as
I
a
am
non-criminal.
a person who was said to have done something XYZ.
So let's
and
just say a rapist, a pedophile, someone that murdered somebody can go to prison, get room and board, 3 meals a day,
3 squares.
3 squares a day, and now get educated. They can what? They're eligible for free college, paid for by the U.S. government. And where does the government get that money, Katie Petrick?
Oh, David, we have these special trees.
Okay.
And
Money
we
trees.
grow our money on them.
These are education college trees
College
for
trees,
prisoners.
yes.
Specific trees.
That is what they are.
Okay.
Now, there are more than 760,000 prisoners who are eligible for this federal financial aid after a nearly 30-year ban was lifted. In 2020, Congress voted to reinstate access to the federal Pell Grant for students in state or federal corrective institutions. And that's overturning portions of laws from the 1990s that had made many inmates ineligible from doing so. Okay, so it was billed as a bipartisan effort backed by many along the political spectrum. Well, that's just delightful. Since July 3rd, now the Department of Education has accepted applications for the Pell Grant from incarcerated students enrolled in participating prison college programs, and they will approve them on a rolling basis. You know, probably as more prisoners just keep on coming in. The change will allow the incarcerated students to access an estimated $130 million in additional financial aid per year.
Wow.
The AP reported that using taxpayer money to give college aid to people who've broken the law can be controversial.
Yes.
Really? When the Obama administration offered a limited number of Pell Grants to prisoners through executive action in 2015, the president always doing executive action.
He had a pen and a phone, and executive action just means that he decided. That one man in the White
That's how
House.
executive action works, yes, in this country. And it's been done many a time. I don't care what political party, executive action, more and more.
But
now,
some Republicans opposed
prominent
it.
ones. Prominent.
Prominent.
Some prominent.
Oh, okay.
Whatever that means. They always use that term. Some prominent Democrats, some prominent Republicans opposed it, arguing in favor of improving the existing federal job training and re-entry programs instead. So the argument always and probably will always be, someone goes to prison. How do you rehabilitate them? How do you make them from, if they're going to go back out into society 15 years from now, make it so they don't reoffend? What do you do? And the argument from a lot of people is, give them education. Okay, according to research by the RAND Corps, PBS reported this, it's shown that participation in prison education programs reduces by 43% the rate at which people reoffend. The reduction in the likelihood to break the law means that for every dollar that is spent on prison education, taxpayers are going to save $5 in reincarceration costs.
What does that mean?
So that means, everyone, hey, $130 million for these prisoners is chump change, because if that just costs, that one person gets $1, you're saving $5 because they're not, now that they're getting this education, they're not going to reoffend. So you're welcome. That's what they're going to spin it as. That's the argument.
My struggle is with this, and I know there is, in God's ordained plan of things and in his universe, there is such a thing as forgiveness through Jesus Christ and repenting of our sins. So in the penal system, in the prisons, yes, they can be truly remorseful for their sins, but aren't they there to be punished? What is justice? And should they be rewarded? Like I said earlier, they get their room and board, they get meals. I know it's not the best of places, but people struggling in the inner cities that are living in dumps with maybe 3 other families and 1 bathroom and just filthy conditions are thinking, so I can go to prison and I can get 3 meals a day and I've got a place to live, and I can get college education for free. So I'm thinking, boy, that almost sounds like you're rewarding them. Am I off?
Oh, no, you're right on. You're spot on.
Spot on.
Spot on. Are you going to go to prison now? Is that?
No, I don't think
Okay.
so. I
Good,
like
good.
my life outside the
Me too.
bars.
I like you
But
being here.
I understand the dilemma, because so there's some people that
is a
will
dilemma.
not be in prison for life, and they will need to come out and hopefully not go back to their old life, but hopefully they will go on to something that's somewhat productive. And so, those programs are important, but
It's a discussion to be had.
yes, to be continued.
All right. Well, still to come, Elon Musk's aerospace aspirations are said to be helped by the youngest employed software engineer on this planet. I say this planet because what else is out there? He's going to probably find out. We are going to introduce you to a brilliant young man after the break.
If you have a smartphone, tablet, Roku, or Apple TV, consider downloading the Freedom Project Media app. It's 100% free and includes all of our weekly shows, plus lecture series, archive programs, and award-winning animated videos for families like the Presidential Minute, Battles of America, and Heroes of the West. Don't rely on the social media giants to keep you informed. Simply download the Freedom Project Media app from your app store and allow notifications. And we'll let you know when a new video is ready.
All right, we're back, and we're talking about Elon again, and it is an interesting story because we've had a lot of people on this on this program. We've talked about youngsters that are brilliant or intelligent or making a lot of headlines, but he hires a profoundly gifted 14-year-old to work on a satellite team at SpaceX. And he is the youngest employed software engineer on the planet. His name is Karan Kwazi. He's 14 years old. And let's watch this quick video. We'll come back and we'll talk about it.
I'm graduating with a degree in computer science and engineering from Santa Clara University.
If you ask him, he'll say he's had a fairly normal college experience.
There wasn't anything to compare it to say, oh, this is different. But I really enjoyed it. I made a lot of really close friends. I think after a few days, the novelty of me being there wore off.
His parents say he was speaking in full sentences at 2 years old.
During third grade, it became very obvious to my teachers, my parents, and my pediatrician that mainstream education wasn't the right path for my accelerated learning ability.
Not only was his IQ seen as profoundly gifted, so was his emotional intelligence. Kwazi started at Las Positas Community College when he was 9 years old and transferred to SCU when he was 11.
I went from being like a third grade mutineer to really feeling validated intellectually.
By the time he transferred to SCU, he had already started working with Intel Labs as the only undergraduate intern on his team. Kwazi is grateful leaders gave him opportunities to see beyond his age.
I think there's a conventional mindset that I'm missing out on childhood, but I don't think that's true. I think, again, that mindset would have me graduating middle school now.
Kwazi can't drive or see an R-rated movie, but starting next month, he'll be working full-time as a software engineer for SpaceX.
So Elon Musk hired this young man. I was thinking 9 years old, he was going to community college. And you know who I thought of? Who was it? The author of the first, Fisher Ames.
Oh, yes.
Fisher
okay.
Ames in our history, and a lot of the men back then, young men. He went to college, I believe, when he was 12 years old.
Oh, super young.
Yeah, he graduated from Harvard, I believe, at 16 years old. So I'm thinking, okay, this is rare, but in the early days, there were a lot of our founders and very bright, intelligent, educated men, and they were in a different way, different time. But this is fascinating. What are your thoughts, Katie?
Well, the main thing is it said he's emotionally intelligent too. The understanding with hormones coming in and all that. As long as they're, and it doesn't seem to be, based on what we've learned here, that the parents are like pushing this kid. Like it seems more self-motivated. Sometimes when you have smart kids, or parents push, and then they fall apart once teenage years hits. But he seems like he's, intellectually and just the emotional part of it is really going to come into play here, especially now that he has a boss, and ultimately his boss is Elon Musk. So
yeah, so I thought it was interesting. He said things like, I can read through a textbook one time and have a deep understanding of the book. I'm going, wow. And then he also said this, well, he's seemingly excellent at everything. Quasi said, 2 specific talents evade him. He said, I always enjoy playing tennis and piano, but I'm pretty bad at both. So I like that there's a little bit of humility there, because sometimes when kids you get all this attention, you're super intelligent and people are fawning over you. So I'm glad to see a little bit of reality there that he's not great at everything, right? It kind of gives a lot of people hope.
There's hope for you. Yeah, so I mean, the fact he's 14 and about to enter the workplace, like we can't even get like 30-year-olds to get out of their parents' basement. Way to go for him. I mean, he's okay if he lives in his parents' basement. Legally, he's still kind of
14. He's got a few years if he wants.
14. So. All right. Well, anyway, make sure you out there, you're hitting the like button. If you're watching us on social media, send us your feedback. Let us know your thoughts. We'd love to hear them. Now, for David and myself, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And thank you for supporting this show. Until next time, stay educated.